I'm Dave Hammer. I have several videos on YouTube, mostly about learning to be a blacksmith, working on forging projects and power hammers. This video, however, is about how my son Richard and I took down white pine trees that had been planted on his property when his neighborhood was developed. These initial pictures show the density and size of many of the trees we cut down. This home was built about 25 years ago, and all these trees were planted to provide quick shade and property delineation. Some of them were only planted 3 to 4 feet apart. Richard wanted them taken down to allow the sun to improve the looks and function of his property, lower his winter energy costs, and let the sunlight get the gardens he intends to put in his backyard. We took down about 30 trees, most of which were over 20 inches in diameter at the base, with a couple over 24 inches. Only a half dozen or so were less than a foot in diameter. Some of the pictures in this video show the trees before they were trimmed in preparation to bring down. Other clips showed trees after Richard had taken off the lower 20 feet of branches in preparation to my coming to help bring the trees down. Removing those lower branches was as much work as taking the rest of the tree down, probably more in some cases. Most of these trees were in excess of 65 feet tall and were as wide near the juncture of the lower branches as they were tall. We dropped the trees essentially one at a time, took off the branches, and staged them for disposal at a transfer station. The trunks were cut into 9 to 11 foot lengths and will be taken to a sawmill. All of the trees needed to be dropped directionally within a few degrees to keep from damaging other trees, plants, or structures. We used this equipment trailer to take the branches and brush to the transfer station. We would basically drop a tree, cut all the branches and the top off, and then start loading them onto this trailer. We could probably get about on average 2 trees worth of branches before we had to take this to the landfill. That shows, this picture shows about a third of the load. We have this video shows only 2 trees being dropped, the most troublesome ones. This was the largest one. This tree, actually the branch that goes off to the right was really troublesome to me because I wasn't sure if this tree would come down the way I wanted it to. It ended up coming down okay, but it was the largest and probably the most violent when it hit the ground. A neighbor popped up, a neighbor that they had never seen that lived behind them, came running out to see what we had damaged. Obviously we hadn't. Part of it had fallen on his property, but we cleaned it all up, and it didn't damage his grass. This is a picture of all the stumps in the back. This is a pan from the next morning from where the pool site is, and shows trees on the right that need to be taken down yet. Well, those trees have to be felled parallel to that fence, literally right parallel to the fence. Otherwise they'd hit the fence and or hit the house. After the trees were down, like I said, we took the branches off and then we cut up the trunks. I have this Bobcat that I have a forklift attached before I put this claw on it that I use to move these trunks. The claw will allow about 22 inches clearance, and this tree was well in excess of 24 inches at the base. You can see I couldn't even get it inside the claw, but it worked okay. This was pretty heavy. This is about, I don't know, 11 feet of this thing, and you can see how big it is. We stacked up these trunks down. They're going to go to a sawmill, and before we were done with all the larger trees we took down, we have about 80 lengths of tree trunks, ranging from this one, I think, being the largest, to down to about 9 inches on the low end, on the narrow end. Most of them are average probably 15 inches or more on the average. There's probably a dozen or so the size of that one, or close to the size of that one. I took this claw off of a claw bucket that I have and just adapted it, built some brackets so I could mount it on this forklift attachment. I have a fair amount of footage showing how this is being used. It was the part of the purpose of making this video is to show how this claw worked. And I was having fun using the Bobcat also. This is an old 873. It's a 96 model. Bobcat. It was the largest one that they made in that time frame. I bought it a few years ago after I retired to help in the clearing of some mountain property. Another property my son had bought that she doesn't own anymore. He used to live out near Haymarket, Virginia. Now he lives in Blacksburg, Virginia. You can see those trees that were cut off. This is after that large tree. That large tree is the stump to the right of that fence that we'd already taken down about, I don't know, a half a dozen more here. Those three that were behind the fence on that one panning, and then several that were on the end of that part of the yard. After the back was done, all the trees were down. We had these 4 trees in the front on the left side of his property to take down. The first tree we took down was the second one from the right, and that was brought down toward that camera. And you'll see here, it actually fell on the neighbor's property, and we took it. Didn't damage his lawn. We were lucky. Maybe made a couple puncture holes. But I wanted to get the branch or the whole tree back off. After we took the branches off, I wanted to get the whole tree back off of his property before we cut the trunk up, so I wouldn't have to drive on the grass very much. This is the street side. I just grabbed it and pulled it back, and we cut it, and then I took the trunks up to the pile. This was the first tree of those 4. The next tree was the tree you can see the line goes to. That tree was actually the most troublesome of all of them. It was a big tree, and it was leaning toward that house. And the graphic doesn't, or this video doesn't show actually how dangerous that was. When you pull a tree with a line, you can only pull it towards you if it's leaning towards you or straight up or leaning towards you. If it's leaning if it's leaning back or left or right, all you're going to do is affect the way that it falls. It's going to swing to a side. To get this tree not to hit that house, I put a tether on it about 25 feet up, tied to the tree nearest the street. You can see that tether right there, and that's a 3/8" cable. And when my son was trying to pull that tree, he thought it was going to hit the house. He was screaming when it started to come down, "It's going to hit the house," but it didn't. After we got all those trees down and the trees down on the right side of the driveway also, the next step was to do some work with some of the stumps. Most of the stumps could stay just above ground level where you could cut them off. Probably a dozen or so in the back, or maybe more. Yeah, maybe more, maybe 15. He wanted to take off below ground level because there's going to be gardens in here. So I have a large air compressor, construction air compressor. It's 160 cubic feet a minute, and this is like a blowgun. And this is something that most of you probably haven't seen before, but it works really well. At 100 psi and as much air as you can push out that little tube, it'll blow that dirt away. So you can actually blow away dirt and rocks and all kinds of stuff. So you can cut this off with a chainsaw below ground level, and it saves. And then just cover it up and let it rot, and put whatever you want over it, and that's what he's doing. Those are almost done now. He's got just maybe 3 or 4 more to do before he brings the compressor back, but it works really well. This is a clip of basically how you have to do this, because this is so dense down here. You can't just get your saw under it and cut it. These are just pictures of how it was done, showing a little bit at a time. This is where he's done and covered up, got dirt over the area already. So that's it. Looks good. Thanks for watching.